Awesome. Mr. Rob Masters,
Where am
welcome to Heroic Hospitality. Appreciate you carving out some time today. Yeah. Great name, by the way.
I was born with it, so yeah,
exactly.
Can't take too much credit.
A lot of expectations with a name like that.
Yeah. Although it's interesting because my son, for a hot minute, was really into home remodeling shows.
Yeah,
and they'd always walk into what used to be the master bedroom. Now it's the primary bedroom because master is like getting canceled.
Boy.
So
geez.
Yeah, woke.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I would have never thought that.
I don't know if that's coming for me or not, but
it's on your heels.
Yeah,
that's insane. Wow, that's the master bedroom is no longer.
It's now the primary bedroom.
A thing. Okay. Yeah. Lesson learned. I think we can stop the podcast there. I think we just got everything out of it.
You learned something new, man.
Awesome. So, you are the partner and head distiller?
Yeah, head distiller, one of the three main partners, and a founder, I guess.
Of Family Jones.
Family Jones, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
And this is, we have a little bit of a lineup today here. We'll talk about that, get into that. But really, so this podcast is for entrepreneurs. Somehow, some way, hospitality touches you, which is basically everyone, and nightlife enthusiasts. So this kind of falls into that nightlife enthusiast lifestyle episode. So tell us a little bit about how would someone, if they're like, even if it's I'm assuming a brewer uses different techniques. Obviously, it's a different product, but I think, pun intended, the spirit is the same of when you're trying to start a business. I know the mechanics of it are different, and the business models are different, production's different, but it's still like, hey, I have a passion, I want to be a brewer. I have a passion, I want to be a distiller. What does that journey look like for you? Or what did it look like for you? And then,
oh man, yeah,
I have some other questions after that.
So amongst my team and other people who know me well, there's definitely a joke about how Rob isn't a big fan of brewers.
Oh, good. Okay.
I like to say that distillers are growing up brewers. 4 out of the 5 production people on our team were rescued from the brewing world, I'd like to say. I actually put that in an email this morning.
Amazing. Okay, this is great. I love this. I like the way this is starting.
I definitely drank beer for a while. Haven't drank beer in a long time, mainly because I'm just a spirits guy, and it's my world, and it revolves around it. I have mad respect for the beer world and what they did before distilling really became a thing, particularly in developing the culture in Colorado. The culture around buying something that is craft, buying something that has a story, buying something that is made well and not fast and cheap, right?
Yeah.
And so,
would you call that a craft distiller? Is that like the definition?
Craft brewer, craft distiller. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's somebody who has some passion for things. And not just somebody who's watching the bottom line all the time. I mean, the bottom line is important, of course, because without the bottom line in a healthy position, you don't have a business. But, we don't have shareholders to answer to. We've got investors, and there's a difference, right?
Big difference.
When we meet with investors, we tell them the whole story and the whole truth, this is a long game, right? We are putting money into whiskey barrels that we are going to sit on for years. And so that's where craft versus macro, really kind of cross paths or don't cross paths, are opposites.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they don't run parallel. And you just kind of gave us a little insight of the business model. Your money is going to be sitting in a barrel for the next 7-10 years. Or whatever that number is.
Yeah, our minimum age on our whiskeys is a minimum of 3 years.
3.
Yeah, but Atticus Jones Batch 5, the one we just released, that's a 4.5 year on average juice. So
cool.
Yeah, oldest barrel in there was 6 years old. Youngest barrel was 3. So.
And what's the difference between bourbon, whiskey? Give us a short lesson on the verbiage on what when someone
Yeah.
picks up something,
Yeah.
and if it's like, if they're looking at this and they're comparing it to like a bullet, like what are the two? Give us just a little bit of education here on that deal.
Well, there's a couple different directions, a couple different rabbit holes we could go down there. First is, what's the difference between bourbon and rye, or single malt and rye, or single malt and bourbon, and whatnot. And ultimately, the easiest way to describe that without going into all of the crazy
No need
laws
to
and
go deep.
regulations is, what grain was it made from?
Okay.
Rye has to be a minimum of 51% rye grain. Whiskey, all whiskey has to come from cereal grains. So corn, rye, wheat, barley. There's some weird ones, Levlon spelt. Rice is a cereal grain. So all whiskey has to come from cereal grains. And then single malts are all 100% barley. Depending on where they're made, if they're made in Scotland, they're a Scotch, and then there's rules about, how much of it is malted, how much of it isn't malted, and so there's a whole bunch of different rabbit holes to go down there. Bourbon, a lot of people, particularly in Kentucky, want you to think that all bourbon comes from Kentucky, and that's not true. Bourbon has to come from the United States.
Yep.
But you can make bourbon anywhere in the U.S.
Interesting.
Minimum of 51% corn. Must be aged in new oak that's been charred. So that barrel can't have seen anything before you put bourbon into it, or a straight rye, or a straight wheat, and whatnot. And it has to be charred. So whiskey coming off the still is crystal clear. It gets all of its color from the barrel. There's debates on this. It's a fun debate to have after a few cocktails with other distillers, how much flavor in a finished whiskey comes from the barrel. And I would say about half of the flavor in a bottle of whiskey comes from the barrel. The other half coming from fermentation, distillation, and what kind of yeast you're using and all that fun stuff, and the grains. So bourbon, 51% corn, new oak that's been charred. And then there's another level. If you see the word straight on a label, that means that whiskey meets all those standards, made in the United States, 51% corn, new oak that's been charred. If it's straight, it has to have been in that barrel for at least 2 years, and you can't put any additives into it. So if you don't see straight, there's something, doesn't mean it's good or bad, that they did to that product that didn't allow it to have the straight designation. Maybe it was in the barrel less than 2 years. Maybe they added caramel coloring into it to make it darker, to make it look browner or older. Maybe they put whiskey flavor in. You can actually go to compounding flavor companies and buy whiskey flavor and put that into a spirit and make it taste like it's older. So straight is an important designation. And then bottled.
And this is labeled straight somewhere?
Yeah, that's straight. Colorado straight rye whiskey. And then, of course, the state, if you put the state name on it, has to have been distilled in that state.
Got it.
So we are Colorado straight.
But you
rye
can
whiskey.
get the grain from another state. It has to be distilled in the state that it's labeled.
Correct. You can get the grain from another state. We don't. I've shook the hand of every farmer we've bought grain from.
It's amazing.
I would love to get into that because that's really about what we're about.
Of course,
Working directly.
We've been and for the record, Beacon has been supporting, and you've been supporting Beacon since we opened. So it's we've had a great relationship, great run.
For sure.
And, two things I want to go back to. Well, one thing right now. So you said rice is considered a whiskey?
Could be, yeah. And there are some out there.
So then what's sake?
Well, sake is not distilled.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So sake is heavily filtered.
Heavily filtered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And the more filtered it gets, the more expensive it gets, typically.
Yeah, well, don't get me started on sake because I'll probably screw it up. But there has to do with how much the rice is polished before they ferment it, and
it's a whole thing. Yeah. You said rice. I just wanted to bring it up so the listeners wouldn't think that that could be whiskey, but you could make alcohol out of it.
If you distilled sake, you would have a rice whiskey. If you ran it through a still.
I see. Cool.
Sochu, Baijiu. Baijiu is the number one consumed spirit in the world.
Whoa.
And Baijiu is a distilled product mainly out of China and Korea If you have dinner in China, there's a chance there's going to be a couple bottles of baijiu on the table, and they just kind of pass it around like the Russians do with vodka.
Yeah.
They just pass it around and do shots of it, and that's why it's the number one consumed spirit in the world, because they just
a lot of
crazy
people
with it. Yeah, and there's a lot of people.
You had mentioned something about the business model. Money sits in barrels.
Yeah,
but you knew that going into it, so you have a different line.
Yeah,
and that line is kind of what is your workhorse and allows you the right to invest and spend in like the fun stuff, like this.
We have 3 different lines, I like to say.
Okay, good. Let's
From
hear
the
it.
production side, I like to say we have 4 legs of the stool, but that's just because we want to separate whiskey out from things that we don't have to age. Anyway, the probably most common line that you guys have supported us on greatly is the house line. So house vodka, house gin, and house American whiskey.
Yep.
That is all sourced alcohol. So we don't ferment and distill that alcohol. We buy that alcohol. I've gone to great lengths to find the best grain neutral spirit that I can find, pharmaceutical grade, meaning it is as pure is a bad word in spirits, but as clean as possible. It's 100% corn, so it's gluten-free, though all distilled spirits are gluten-free coming off the still. Another conversation we can have, another rabbit hole.
I love that.
Down.
Yeah, it's good that everyone knows that too. It's like the marketing on that is intense.
Yeah. Where people get in trouble with gluten in spirits is additives like whiskey flavoring or glycerin or caramel coloring. Additives that are put into spirits after distillation could contain gluten. And so that's where people kind of get in trouble. But coming off of the still, dripping off of the still, it's all gluten-free. The protein molecules do not come over in the distillation process. It just can't. So anyway, back to house vodka in particular. We buy that. We put Colorado water into it. We bottle it up. In the case of Jones House Gin, we take that neutral spirit. We'll infuse it with botanicals, do a maceration, we call it.
Which is kind of like tea.
Yes,
it's like making
much,
a tea.
Very much. Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll do that in the pot of the still. We'll come in, we'll let it sit overnight. We'll come in the next day, add a little water, fire that still up, and distill over. What's happened is the ethanol is alcohol is an extract, a solvent. And so that alcohol has extracted those flavors off of those botanicals and latched onto it. And so we'll put that in the still. We'll heat up the still, and alcohol boils at a lower temp than the water, and none of the botanicals are going to come over or anything like that. So that goes up as a vapor, comes over to the condenser. Condenser's running cold water through it. That's going to condense that vapor, and what drips off is a very high potency, high alcohol percentage flavoring extraction.
And dangerous to drink if you just drank that.
You would die. What we do is we'll take a little bit just on the tip of the finger and hit the tongue with it to give it to taste it as we're distilling it, right? Just to make sure there's no off flavors coming off. Sure, you would die if you drank too much of it, but that's the case for any alcohol.
What's too much though? I'm kidding.
I mean, everybody, well, not everybody, but most people have had an experience with Everclear at some point in college, making, jungle juice or whatever it is. And that's ultimately what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
It's ultimately Everclear with very, very strong high levels of juniper, coriander, orris root, orange peel, allspice. And so we'll take that, blend it with a little more neutral, add Colorado water to it, and put it into the bottle.
Got it.
And then the American whiskey section of the house line is all sourced whiskey that we purchased a bunch of barrels on. We wanted something that kind of played on cocktail menus. So it was priced anywhere from 75 cents to $1 an ounce, which usually works for a cocktail menu, though COVID, as it has with many things, has really kind of screwed a lot of that up.
In what way? Higher or lower?
Both.
Yeah. Confusing. Confusing.
Yeah. And all accounts are going different directions. And, kudos to our sales team because just since COVID, as everybody in the business knows, everything is different, right? Back bars are a lot thinner. There used to be that you would walk into a nice restaurant and they'd have a back bar of a couple hundred different bottles, right?
Right.
Well, now most people are slimming down and they're like one bottle, one type of tequila, maybe two, one type of vodka, maybe two, aside from what's in the rail. So it's a lot harder to get back bar placements and things like that. So that's our house line. That's kind of priced and made to do volume, to support local bars and restaurants that want a good local option for vodka, gin, and or whiskey. And it's really kind of just a flywheel of revenue that allows us to make the stuff that's important to us, which is
you're passionate
grain to bottle, straight from the farmer, made truly by hand, milled, mashed, fermented, distilled, aged, blended, and bottled all in-house by our team.
It's amazing.
We like to say that if there's hands on the bottle, it was crafted by hand, right? So if you see our products, the house brands have this kind of white generic looking label. Intentionally, yep. And then we call it Original Jones. So it's Annika Jones vodka, Juniper Jones gin, Earl Grey Juniper Jones.
I think this is my favorite out of that
Is it?
line.
Well, you're going to get a kick out of this bottle. We'll talk about it here in a minute.
Yeah.
And then Atticus Jones rye, Ella Jones bourbon, and now our new one is Willow Jones bourbon, which is a wheated bourbon.
Oh, what one?
Wheated bourbon.
What's that?
So our mash bill on Ella is 75 corn. I don't have Ella here, so I'm pretending that the bottle is here.
Oh, okay.
Our mash bill on Ella is 75 corn, 15 rye, 10 malt. Our mash bill on Willow is 75 corn, 15 wheat, 10 malt.
Okay.
And so the difference by switching out that modifying grain from rye to wheat, rye is going to add a spiciness. It's going to add kind of you think about rye bread, right?
Yeah.
Like rye
I'm
bread
glad you said that, because we say these things and we just
Yeah.
take for granted that people know. Like, this literally is what you make rye bread out of, is
Yes.
rye wheat. Yeah.
Well,
or not rye
yeah,
wheat, but
yeah.
rye.
Rye,
Yeah.
right. So think about rye bread. It's going to be kind of spicy and hearty and whatnot. Think about wheat bread. They're two very different tastes, right?
Yeah.
They're two very different breads. And
It's a great analogy.
that shows up in the whiskeys as well. So rye whiskey is going to be spicy, right? It should have that spiciness to it. It should have just a little more character, right? Bourbon, which has to be corn, is going to be on the sweeter side, right? Well, if we switch those modifier grains from rye to wheat, we take a sweet bourbon with a little bit of a spice background, our rye bourbon, and we go to our wheated bourbon, and it's going to have this kind of creamy smoothness to it. I hate the word smooth when particularly when describing spirits. It's kind of a joke in the industry. Like when you taste somebody and they go, "Oh, that's smooth," it's always just kind of a punch to the gut. But anyway, that's another story. And
you make it really easy for people, because if you look at the back of the bottle, the mash bills are on the back, and that really helps the customer. So if the customer's interested to support local, handmade, artisan products, make sure you look at the bottle, understand where it comes from, and know a little bit about it. Like, feel free to Google, right? Like, if you're at the liquor store, which in our industry is called off-premise, right? Restaurants are on-premise. And so if you're going to an off-premise place, Google it, figure it out, and know what you're buying and what you're supporting. That's one thing that I'm trying to redefine my relationship with alcohol. I haven't drank for it's 4 months now. Had a couple of drinks the other night. That was fine. I think in the last 4 months, in the last 2 weeks, I've had 3 drinks, And so just trying to redefine that, but really understanding what I'm putting in my body and being a little more intentional about it. Not just having it be a lifestyle that it's been pretty much my entirety. So thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I do think it's important that when people are purchasing and taking money out of their pocket and spending money on something, they should know a little bit about it.
Yeah, know that there are products out there that have caramel coloring in them or glycerin, I worked on a project once. So I've been a distiller for 16 years. I've helped build over a dozen distilleries around the country.
16 years?
Yeah,
You've been?
16 years,
as a head distiller?
Yeah, as a full-time professional distiller.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you come up the ranks, though, in some way? Were you assistant distiller?
School of Hard Knocks. No, I've always been in charge, I guess. But it's
That's a
in
luxury.
charge of different things, different levels of things. So
There's a lot of stress, I'm sure, with that.
Oh, yeah.
On all the levels,
Yeah,
from the 16 years ago to
yeah.
today, you know?
Yeah, and the industry has changed. I've changed. The amount of money, both in and out of businesses, has changed. You know, and technology's changed, all that sort of stuff. So yes, a lot has changed. But throughout my career, I've always been in charge of whatever is going into the bottle in various forms. So I was working on a project. I have a consulting business I've been running on the side for all 16 years that I've been a distiller, helping people build distilleries.
Nice.
And I had a product that was being developed at a large bottler. And this bottler had a lab, and they had a flavor chemist on board. And a flavor chemist is very, very different from a distiller. A distiller is somebody who takes a grain and turns it into a spirit through this entire process, right? A flavor chemist is somebody who takes the things that make up the flavors of a flavor. So a lot of people don't know this. There was a really great, it's years ago, 60 Minutes did a story on Givaudan. Givaudan's one of the largest flavor companies in the world. And they go into the lab at Givaudan, and they're talking about strawberry flavor. And strawberry flavor is primarily flavored, the natural strawberry flavor that you can buy from Givaudan is primarily castordum, which is the oils from a gland on a beaver's anus.
Okay.
So they're harvesting the oils from this gland, and they're putting it into a jar and with other things and calling it strawberry flavoring. Now that's naturally occurring. So it is a natural strawberry flavor.
In the beaver's anus.
Yes.
Strawberry flavored beaver anus.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to
You can
just
Google
say,
this stuff.
I'm going
Like,
to, I will
you
after
need to
this.
Google this
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait.
So anyway, a flavor chemist
I wanna be
takes
polite.
a flavor chemist takes these naturally occurring flavors that may not come from a strawberry, or it may not come from a grape, or may not come from whatever the hell bubblegum flavor is, right? Tutti frutti.
Right.
Like,
or
what is
Bubblicious
that?
growing up.
Right,
You and I
right.
grew up, yeah.
Yeah. What's blue raspberry? Have you ever seen a blue raspberry growing somewhere? Right? No, but a flavor chemist created it, and it's a
Gotcha.
thing, right?
Okay.
So anyway, I'm working on this project. They have a flavor chemist on staff, and
Loves beavers.
This wasn't a strawberry flavored thing. It was something else. I don't want to say what it was because people will know what I'm talking about, and I don't want to expose anything. But the flavor chemist comes out from the lab with a tray full of samples, and she sets it down in front of us, and she's very, very excited. And I'm like, okay, all right, she's excited. Let's see what we got going on here. So we start tasting through the samples, and sample 1 is this, and sample 2 is this, and we're tasting them, and we like them. We get to sample 3, and her face just kind of lights up. She's kind of dancing in her seat a little bit, and
she's proud.
She's really excited and proud. And we taste it, and I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's like, and so now it's time for her to tell us about what this is. And it turns out that she just recently came across an enzyme that she put into this sample that when it hits your mouth, it dulls your taste buds.
Okay.
So what that's doing is it's dulling your taste buds to hide the off flavors, to highlight the flavor of this product that we were developing. Okay. Well, I didn't give her permission to dull my taste buds. Right? Think about if you're sitting at a fine dining restaurant. So you're sitting at Frasca Food and Wine.
Yeah.
And you go get the chef's tasting, or
you're pumped.
Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You're about to spend a ton of dough
on
a real nice meal. And somebody makes you a cocktail with a spirit that has this enzyme in it that dumbs your taste buds. And now you don't even know it. And you can't taste half the magic that the chef put into that meal that you're about to pay a bunch of money for. Okay? So when you're talking about knowing more about what you're putting into your bottle, another thing most people don't realize is there's no ingredient list on spirits bottles.
Yeah.
There's no ingredient list. A bottle of vodka, I'm not going to say who, but there's a major brand out there, major, like lots and lots of vodka. that per TTB, that's the federal governing body, we can add up to 2% by volume additives to a bottle of vodka without having to tell anybody.
Wow, 2%'s a lot.
2%.
Yeah.
So glycerin is a smoothing agent. Glycerin goes into hand soap. So you know how a hand soap, like out of a pump, is kind of smooth and lotion. Same thing. Glycerin, it's a smoothing agent, right? So you can put glycerin into that spirit. You can put
up to 2%.
Citric acid into it. Citric acid, along the same lines as this enzyme, kind of dulls your taste buds a little bit. It just dumbs down things so that they can use a little bit of a cheaper neutral spirit. And they don't have to tell anybody. It doesn't say anything on that label about citric acid or glycerin or any of that stuff, right? There are no ingredient labels on spirits. And so all of our spirits, we are super transparent. What's the mash bill? If you look at our house brands, it says on the front, grain neutral spirit, water, right? That's what our vodka is. We don't put glycerin in it. We don't put citric acid in it because we don't need to, right? We are
You're not
sourcing,
Yeah.
we're not hiding anything. We're sourcing the best grain neutral spirit we can find, and we're using really good Colorado water, right? Colorado water is first use water. It snows on the Great Divide. That melts. It goes into an aquifer, goes into a reservoir. It's processed. We put it into our vodka, right? I was reading a book once, and this book was talking about water. This book was all about water. And one of the statements they made is that by the time water gets to Kansas, it's been through 3 or 4 toilets.
Come on.
Well, think about it. In Colorado,
I don't want to think.
It snows on the Great Divide. We get our water, we consume it, we go pee, we flush it, it goes to a water treatment plant, gets all of the bad stuff stripped out of it, gets turned back into water, goes downstream to whoever's next, right? And then they process it and goes through the people and the plant, and then that goes to the next one, right? And so
wow,
we are blessed in Colorado with amazing water because we let Mother Nature do that process.
And it wasn't first generation. What did you call it? First use.
First use.
First use. Okay. All right.
Am I scaring you yet with all these stories?
Yeah, my God. That's beaver anus.
Yeah.
Triple used water.
Yeah. Toilet water.
So what other kind of flavor components besides strawberry anus is out there?
Vanilla. If you buy imitation vanilla, I mean, Lord knows what that vanilla is. It's synthetically.
I could tell truffles too, like when they're like truffle oil when it's
yeah.
not real. Like,
yeah, I'm so over that world. Yeah,
I was over it when I first saw it on the shelf.
Yeah,
Yeah. I've had the luxury of being around some awesome food in my life, and like,
yeah,
I've seen like,
what real truffle tastes
which
like.
And like it's just awful.
When you see truffle fries at a fast food restaurant, like there's no way that they're.
And they're like $4 for the French fries or whatever, $6. It's like, that is not. Yeah. That's that chemist,
right?
That's tinkering around with beavers, messing around with.
Maybe that came from a woodpecker's ass. Who knows? I don't know.
Oh man. Okay. Cool. So, Family Jones, everything is local. Do you? Obviously, this is a small group of individuals. You're in a small class of people that make awesome things. Is there any other producers that in Colorado that you would kind of consider yourself in good company with?
Yeah, without question. There's
who
a bunch
else?
of great distillers.
So if someone's looking at like, and they can't, and they your product for whatever reason isn't.
If they already have our stuff and they want to try somebody else's, I know where you're going here. Todd Leopold is one of my closest friends. Our wives are super close. Our kids are 5 months apart,
and their product's a lot different because of the fruit.
It is and it isn't. I mean, it's a similar situation where he's doing things by hand in unique ways.
I love his Instagram, by the way. He's got a good one. Yeah.
Direct from farmers. I mean, he's taken it another level where he's doing his own malting. He's doing open fermentation. He's designed his whole facility with a garden outside the windows where the wind, the air for the building blows over the garden and brings in natural yeast. And then he's got his 3-chamber still. And you should definitely have Todd on.
That's
on
cool.
Your podcast,
that's cool.
and he can tell
I've met him only
story,
once, and I appreciated his energy and spirit. But another
Yeah.
pun. There you go.
Yeah.
But behind what he's doing, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And your production facility is in the Highlands, right? In Denver.
We have two. We have two. So the Spirit House is in the Highlands.
I wanted to change subjects really quick just to get that.
Well, but I still would love to talk about some other distillers
Yeah.
in Colorado too.
Okay, let's do it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't. I was like in my head. I'm like, I don't know if that's like appropriate. But if you want to talk, let's talk about it.
We're all friends. We're all friends.
Yeah, I figured. Okay.
We
So Leopold,
sure we're
Leopold
competitors
Brothers.
at some level.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we're competing against Jack Daniel's and Maker's Mark and the big brands.
Got
right? Like I would much rather see somebody buy a bottle of Peach Street's peach brandy than buy De Kuyper's peach brandy or something. Right. So Leopold Brothers, Peach Street, Laws is doing great things. Bear Creek is doing great things. And
Is that in the Roaring Fork Valley, Bear Creek?
Nope. Bear Creek's down South Broadway neighborhood.
Okay.
Yep. Also incredible.
I haven't.
people.
Yeah, I need to.
Really
need to
rad
unearth
dudes.
those guys. Yeah. Okay.
Just awesome people. I'm definitely going to miss somebody, so I apologize if you're watching this and you feel like I should have mentioned you.
No, you got Peach Street, Leopold
Peach
Brothers,
Street, Leopold, Laws. Stranahan's was first.
Stranahan's, yep.
They're a little bit of.
They got sold though recently. Yeah,
They've. Well,
I can
not
only
recently.
imagine.
It's been at least 10 years now that they got bought by Proximo, which is part of the Cuervo family. But they started, right? Like Jake Norris and Jess Graber, and then Rob Dietrich was their master distiller. Rob is another one of my close friends. We have breakfast every Friday at the Universal. If you haven't been to the Universal,
on 38th Street.
We're there. It's on 38th. Just east of Federal. I was there this morning. We have breakfast every Friday, and sometimes Rob's there. Sometimes a guy named Jason Lippa is there, who's he used to work at Stranahan's, and he designed the software system that all of us use. Sometimes Jake Norris is there. Sometimes, I don't know, there's rotating distillers.
Fun. I love that idea.
Open invite for us.
I should do that with some of our hospitality buds.
Yeah. Just have like a lunch.
I love that. Yeah. Just like an open lunch.
Yeah.
And like to someone
whoever
like
shows up, and if nobody shows up, you got lunch to yourself, and that's how I treat it. You know? So
that's cool. That's fun.
Anyway, there's a lot of great distillers in the state. When I started 16 years ago, I want to say there was maybe 6 or 7 of us, and before that, I started I would call it an apprenticeship at a distillery down in Colorado Springs. And there were 3. It was Stranahan's, Peach Street, and then this was called Pure Distilling.
Where's Peach Street out of?
Peach Street's in Palisade over on the western slope.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they were the first ones to come out with a Colorado Straight bourbon whiskey. They make incredible peach brandy because all the orchards are right there. They do pear brandy. They do apricot, eau de vies. They do all sorts of fun
definitely
stuff.
Don't spend your money on bowls or whatever.
Because again, artificial flavors, flavor chemist versus actually fermenting a peach.
Yeah.
Right. There's a big difference there. Yeah. So, hopefully that covers.
That does. That's great. No, that's great.
There are a lot of great distillers.
Because I do believe
Woody Creek's doing good stuff.
That's who I was thinking of. Woody Creek.
They're outside
in Roaring
Aspen.
Fork Valley. Yeah. And that's why. And that's really, I know, I had Justin Brunson on recently, and it's just so important to just start paying attention to how you're spending your money and who you want to spend it with when it comes to choices like this. These are fun choices,
Well, listening to Justin talk about how he makes his bacon, the
nitrate piece,
the
that
whole
was like fun,
part, and they actually smoke it. They don't put liquid smoke in. That's super important to me. Like
me too.
I'm a one of my hobbies is smoking and grilling. I've got a big green egg. I'm an egghead.
Is that what they're called?
That's what they're called. Yeah, for better or worse, I don't know. And so I spend a lot of time smoking meats on the weekends, and knowing that a lot of bacon just has liquid smoke injected into it. Like, where's the fun in that? Like I want real smoke. So I've known Justin for a long time, and
he's right. He was right down the street for a while.
I'll definitely be buying his bacon.
Yeah. I think we put some links in the show notes. Did we put links in the show notes for Justin on where to buy that stuff? So there you go. That's perfect. So question about this is such an easy conversation for me to have because it's like second nature to me just to like love anybody that makes something artisan and like it's like, so what has your relationship been, or do you have a relationship with the beverage industry has changed so much, as you mentioned earlier. And from an owner operator, it's been frustrating because it feels like some of these bigger distributors, we won't name names. Well, I'm happy to, but I won't because of just for whatever reason. But like, it feels like they've been spreading their people out so thin that they can't honor the actual products that they're trying to represent. The time that it's spent with the owner, operator, sommelier, or whomever, the relationship is basically non-existent. And they're almost just the person that punches the numbers. Is that kind of how you see it too? It's just really challenging. And I had Chad Michael George on the other day. I've talked about this a lot. And I think it also is important for the listeners to understand how challenging this industry has become. The margins are super slim, and the amount of human contact is kind of just, it's fading away. It's awful for me because
I hear you, totally hear you, and understand what you're saying. It has been a common thread amongst distillers of our size, craft distillers. I am an active member on a bunch of committees and such for the American Craft Spirits Association, which is the national trade org for craft distillers. And I go to every conference, and I've got a lot of friends all over the country and former clients who are now friends and whatnot. And kind of the ongoing way that people on our level, on our side of the business, treat distributors is they are order takers, delivery service, and people who pick up checks. So most craft distillers have to go into those relationships knowing that. And that's why we have a sales team. We have a sales team of 3 people, plus myself. I'm out there pounding the pavement quite a bit as well.
That's great to know. Another reason to spend money with you guys.
Yeah. And
everyone's participating in this movement.
Because we understand and we see it that distributors are getting more and more hands off. But to their defense, it's a tough business. Margins are thin. It is on all 3 levels, manufacturer, wholesaler, retailer. It's getting harder to find good people. You know how hard it is to find good servers, good bartenders, all that.
Talk about it all the time.
Same thing on the wholesaler level. And as we think about what AI and technology is doing to everybody's industry, AI and technology is only going to affect Beacon's experience so much, right? You still need a cook or a chef to cook something, right? At a good restaurant, right? You still need a bartender. I mean, I'm sure there's robots out there, and like somebody's developing something that's going to cook food for people and all that.
Or put product in a bottle like you guys do.
Sure.
Premium product in a bottle. But then
we still do it by hand. Like we're still putting the bottle onto the machine, then it fills.
Understood.
You take it off, and then it gets labeled. But if there's one place in this tier of people who touch the products that technology is going to take over first, it's the distributor level. I mean, think about what Amazon's done to the small local store, right? Like, I would love to be able to walk. Growing up in South Minneapolis, my grandpa and I would walk to the local hardware store, and he'd walk in the door, and they knew his name. And every one of those people working at that hardware store knew exactly where everything was. And you don't have that anymore. Like, you go to Ace, you go to Home Depot, it's not the same. Like, you got to find somebody who knows about plumbing to find this particular joint, whatever. There's probably not going to be somebody who knows it. And you got to figure it out on your own, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way with these distributors, because it's really easy for them to look at their bottom line and say, man, we're spending a lot of money on people and labor when we can go to this online ordering model and cut out that part that is costing us a lot of money and time, because their margins are thin too, right? Cost of gas is going up.
Transportation,
They got to deliver. They got to find people to drive those trucks, right?
The time it takes, all of it.
Yeah. I mean, so
warehouse.
I kind of feel for them a little bit. I totally feel for you guys, which is why we have a sales team.
Yeah.
That is pounding the
and that's why you're
pavement
still,
and talking to
that's
people.
why we're here now. That's why
Yeah.
we're in the mix together. That's
Yeah.
why we
Because
want to support at the next beacon. Like that's the whole point.
The distributor
you know?
can only do so much. And
Yeah.
the other thing there is talk about big brands versus small brands. Jack Daniels and Absolute and Tito's and all the big brands kind of sell themselves at this point. So when you talk about off-premise liquor stores, a distributor rep walks in there and they've got a clipboard and they look at the Tito shelf and they say, oh, they're down to 12 bottles, so they need more of that. And then, oh, there's Jack Daniels, they need more of that. And then they go to the store buyer or owner and they say, this is what we think you need. Store buyer says, yeah, I trust you, signs off on it, shows up on the truck the next day. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's really tough as a craft distiller to get a distributor rep to also go to the shelf where our stuff is sitting and say, oh, they only have 3 bottles of Anika left. I should probably get them another order, right? Because they're also
looking at dollars as well.
Well, there's that, and they're overworked. Like the territories that some of these people have to run are crazy.
Totally changed.
Next time you see a distributor rep that you like and have a good relationship with, ask them how many accounts they have. You know, there's probably a couple hundred accounts that person has to see in a week, and you know, it's.
I don't
tough,
know them
man.
anymore, honestly. There's like one, and if
Yeah.
I do, they're old school, and it's like they've been doing it for
Yeah.
a long time. They know how to work with guys like me, which isn't
Yeah.
easy because my expectation.
Yeah.
I'm so anchored in the past, you know,
Right.
when it comes to these relationships, because relationships are so important.
To us, to our generation,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah,
But newer generations, it's
They don't-
Gen Z.
computer's fine.
They've grown up in front of a screen.
Yeah,
They're fine
computer's
talking
fine.
to a screen. They're fine punching their order into drop-down menus and hitting send, and then they know it's going to show up, just like their DoorDash and just like their Amazon order and all of that. So I kind
I'm
of
getting
feel
lazy with Amazon, to be fully transparent.
everybody is. It's way too easy, man. It's way too easy.
So what percentage, okay, actually, what percentage of the industry is craft spirits when it comes to, like, when
As
you're
a-
talking about the big pond,
Yeah,
and the
as
big
a-
pond is 100% of the pond,
Right.
what is
In
that?
the country?
In the country, yeah, nationally.
Oh, it's like 6%, something like that.
So when you buy a product like this, you're really supporting the mom and pop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's just so important. 6% is, I mean, out of the pond,
Yeah.
wow.
I years ago, I was asked to be on a show that's on public television, and I knew nothing about it. It was very last minute. Like I got called that morning and said, "Hey, can you be at the studio by noon?" And so I rushed over there and I showed up at noon. I was on the show, and the guy starts asking me about taxes, and I'm like, "Well, if you buy local, you're supporting us. You're supporting our farmers, who 2 of our farmers are growing grains within 5 miles of our production distillery. You're supporting the label maker. The person who stamps the foil on these labels is in the Highlands. The person who prints these labels is in, I think it's Federal Heights. So you're supporting our label maker. You're supporting the water company, El Dorado Springs, that provides the water that we use to blend this down, local. And that money, they pay taxes on their business.
They
And
spend the money
They
in
pay
the
taxes
car,
when they buy a pack of gum. They pay taxes when they go out to eat, you know, whatever. And that's all staying local, and it's helping to fix your roads and, you know, all the things that the government has to do to make our society livable, right? And so I said that to this guy, and turns out he was an anti-tax guy, and so he didn't like that very much, and he shut me down and kicked me off really quick. But
So, really?
Yeah.
Just the snub.
yeah,
Hey, thanks for taking the trip. We're
yeah,
good.
yeah, exactly. Oh, I didn't realize you were going to be pro taxes. But, you know, am I pro taxes or not? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you spend your money on a local product, there's a good chunk of your money that's staying local.
Yep.
When you buy a bottle of Grey Goose, there's a good chunk of that money that's going to France. Do you love French things? Sure. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, cheese, I'm in.
Sure.
Everything else,
Yeah,
it's like
bread, sure.
wine,
wine.
Yeah. You know,
The funky stuff's kind of fun. The people, yeah.
I want to respect your time, so I got one more question, unless you have anything else you want to talk about. Actually, I want to talk about the restaurant in the Highlands.
Yep, and I want to talk about our farmers and
that's great. That's
regenerative
great.
ag
Perfect.
and that kind of stuff.
So since the relationship has become more disconnected with whether it's a spirit, whether it's wine, beer, especially keeping it local, and they don't have the luxury of having. I mean, the fact that you have a sales team is a big investment for you guys.
Yeah, big.
A huge investment. I mean, you're paying for someone's livelihood, and
Three of them.
three of them, right? That's a lot of money. Since they're spread thin too, because I know you guys are opening new markets, and it's like my relationship with
salesperson.
Yeah, that's
for
like
other markets. Yeah,
it's you have to understand that you don't have everybody's attention. So what could we do as sommeliers, owner operators, or anybody that is putting something on the shelf, and say like some of our products that we were buying from Sazerac went to a different company. We didn't have that relationship with that company. And so we kind of just faded away, right? But I needed to replace those products. Now, what do you have a way or a publication or a resource that we can use, that we can share with our listeners, that is like, here's the up and coming, here's what you need to know in the industry right now for your region? Is there like some sort of newsletter, or is there something that you can suggest to us, that a resource where we can find out about the peach streets of the world, the Leopold Brothers of the world? Is there anything is there some sort of like publication that is for independent producers?
There are distiller-specific publications. Artisan Spirit magazine is based out of Washington State, but that's for people like me to read about. Oh, what's the next yeast, and how should I size my tanks, and do I need lightning protection and stuff like that, right? So there may be some distiller highlight type things in there that you would be able to, but that's a national
figure it out
too, right?
Is what you got to do, huh?
So locally, we used to have festivals and all that kind of stuff. Another thing that COVID kind of killed, right, is festivals. I don't know if you ever attended Distill, DSTILL.
I don't think so. When did that stop? Or when did that?
We did 4 of them. Myself and Moose Coons, who used to work at Peach Street.
Okay.
Now he's Rocky Mountain Soda Company, and then a guy named Chuck Sullivan at Something Independent we put that on behalf of the Colorado Distillers Guild, which could be a resource for you, the Distillers Guild. And we would do these tastings, and so it was all craft distillers, and we'd roast pigs, and it was all about crafting.
It was kind of a festival celebrating artisan products.
You go around and taste everybody's
handmade
stuff and whatever. We always had an industry hour so that bar owners, managers, buyers, liquor store people could come and taste before the general public came in, and it got too crazy. Somebody needs to start that back up, I think. I certainly don't have the bandwidth.
It's a lot of energy.
For it. Yeah.
Someone that's already doing like a Jeff Suskin of the world would be like a good dude to tap for that.
And, Suskin's events definitely support some craft stuff. We've done a bunch of his events, and, I know
they're just such a big scale now.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They are.
And fun, but just big scale.
Honestly, talk to the sales reps that come in. If somebody comes in and they seem like they're local and craft and have a story to tell, please give them at least 5 minutes of your time if you can. Taste what they have. If you ever do see a distributor rep, ask them what local stuff they have. See what they have to peddle.
That's great.
It's tough, man. It's really tough.
It's tough.
We have a sales team with 3 people just for the state of Colorado. We've got another sales guy that handles our 2 outside markets, Nebraska and Oklahoma. We're about to open up a couple more this coming year. We do a lot of farmers markets. We have the Spirit House in the Highlands. We didn't talk about facilities.
Yep.
And so the Spirit House in the Highlands is a tasting room. It is a manufacturing distillery tasting room permit. And what that means is we can't serve beer, we can't serve wine, and we can only serve spirits that we produce. So upstairs at the Spirit House, you see this big, beautiful...
And what's the Spirit House called?
the Spirit House, Family Jones Spirit
Yep.
House.
Just making sure that.
Yep. It's next door to Root
I mean, I've
Down.
been there a bunch, so
Yeah,
I know what it's called.
It's next door to Root Down in the Highlands. Same
and it's
block,
gorgeous.
same block as Avanti.
Yeah.
And so.
And tasty.
Yeah. So that's a distillery tasting room license. We pride ourselves on our cocktail program, particularly because every cocktail made there contains spirits we've produced. So our bartenders can't buy a Campari, can't buy Carpano Antica, can't buy Lillet, can't buy any of the modifiers and liqueurs. So we make all those upstairs.
Yep. Which I've had a Negroni at your at the tasting room, and it was awesome.
Yeah. And so we had to create all that upstairs. And if you ever get a chance to come by and ever get a chance to tour, make sure you go upstairs and check that out, because upstairs is a full lab. We've got over 100 different botanicals up there. We've got distillates that we've distilled from those botanicals. If a bartender, a distiller, a chef has an idea for something, they can grab it in botanical form, grab it in distillate form, start blending things together, create an Amaro, create a lavender liqueur, create a lemongrass liqueur, right? So
we should do that next time, because I've had 2 staff trainings there.
Yeah.
And which is a great, I would recommend greatly if you run a crew and you have a business and you have a restaurant, reach out to.
We're only open Wednesday through Saturday to the general public, and so Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays, we like to kind of hand the room over to people like yourself to have staff meetings.
It's a great idea.
You do a tour and a tasting and get to learn all about the story and what we're making and why and all that kind of stuff.
Who would they reach out to? I mean, we'll put it in the show notes, but I do believe that doing field trips with your staff, that connection.
Yeah.
And
we'll get you out of this element.
You do.
They're bored of sitting in and whatnot. Yeah.
We'll dial that in after the show, but I'd love to hear, you had mentioned the farmers.
Yeah, so
you wanted to talk
we have
about
2 facilities. We have this facility in the Highlands that is a working still. We have 2 wooden foeders up there, so wooden fermenters, and that's where we're making all of our one-off whiskeys. Our weeded bourbon, which is called Willow Jones. This is Mo Jones Pachuga style rum. So this is rum distilled over a smoked pig's head. Kind of a fun project that we've done a couple times. So all of the nerdy kind of one-off stuff is made at the Spirit House. And then in Loveland, just south of Fort Collins, about an hour north of Denver, is our production facility. So all of our grain processing happens up there. Our milling, so we mill it, we mash it, we ferment it, we distill it. Our barrels are there. Our bottling happens up there. So that's the true heartbeat. That's where all the heavy lifting is happening up there. I've shook the hand of every farmer we've bought grains from. I'm very picky about which farmers we buy grains from. Big for us is regenerative agriculture. So people who care for the land. It's not necessarily organic. Organic and regenerative are kind of on the same level. They cross paths in a couple different ways, but regenerative is caring about the soil. It's rotating crops. It's grazing cattle on their land. There's a whole bunch of things that go into regenerative ag, which is more than just organic. Organic is not using pesticides and not using nasty chemicals on your fields. Regenerative is taking it at another level and caring for the soil, the topsoil. And ultimately what that does is it provides better grains. It provides
nutrients,
more
oxygen,
flavor to the grains. One difference, one of many differences between us and a large distiller is large distillers are just buying yellow number 2 dent corn, and they're getting truckloads of it, and they're going to take a sample of it and make sure that it's got enough starch content, whatever. Well, great. The more starch you have, the less protein you have. There's a balance, okay? Starch, protein, they're balanced, okay? The more protein you have, the more flavor you have. So when you have a lot of starch and not much protein, you don't have a whole lot of flavor in that grain. And so we're finding farmers that are willing to grow us enough starch that we can create spirits, that we can ferment. We have enough fermentable sugars to actually make something, but a good protein balance that provides flavor that you're not going to get from a mass-produced grain. And this balance happens a lot better when you have somebody who's caring for the soil, right? One of the farmers we use is down the San Luis Valley. Their last name is actually Jones, no relation to the family Jones. Sarah and Michael Jones are in the San Luis Valley. And for 3 generations, they were rotating crops, and one of their cover crops was rye. And so they would plant this rye to get through the winter and keep their land, from going fallow. And they would just mow it over in the spring and plow it back into the ground. And so I met them through Kelly Whitaker, actually, in the Noble Grain Alliance. And I was talking to them, and I was like, well, I'll buy that rye from you for our rye whiskey. So they, for 3 generations, have been just doing this cover crop and not making any money on it, to now all of a sudden they're making money on it. Oh, and by the way, rye grain uses a hell of a lot less water than barley does and than corn does and a lot of other crops that have traditionally been grown in the San Luis Valley, potatoes. And so I would love for you to have Sarah Jones on and tell you this story much more in depth.
I would love it. That's done deal. Just connect me and I'm a yes.
I'm not going to do it justice, but they are working on a program to get more farmers in the San Luis Valley to plant rye because it uses less water. The state of Colorado has given the San Luis Valley, I think there's 3 or 4 years left before they have to be fully dependent on their own aquifer. So for generations, they've been getting water from around other places in Colorado. Well, the state of Colorado put a deadline on that. You can no longer use water from anywhere else but your own aquifer by a certain date. I think it's 3 or 4 years from now. And so in order to do that, Michael Jones, Sarah's husband, has done the math, and he said, if I can convert 50% of the farmers in this valley to grow some rye, we can do that. We're there. We're using our own water. And so water's super valuable in Colorado. We all know that, right? And so if I can buy rye from them, if rye whiskey can take off and become a bigger thing in Colorado because it has the story behind it, and it's a beautiful thing. People ask me all the time what my favorite thing to drink is and what my favorite thing to make is, and the answer is always rye whiskey. I love rye whiskey, right? Bourbon pays the bills because everybody sees bourbon and they know bourbon and whatever. Rye whiskey is art to me. Rye whiskey has character, and you can make some amazing cocktails with it. Anyway, so if we can find more things to do with rye and get the consumption levels up on rye, we can save water in the San Luis Valley and beyond, right? So these are the stories that we are beating our drum about. The Olanders in Berthoud, just Loveland Berthoud line. If you've been in northern Colorado lately, it's urban sprawl. Loveland is growing out, Fort Collins is growing out, Boulder and Longmont are growing up and whatever. Well, they just put a conservation easement on all their land that's not going to allow any building other than agriculture on that land for, I think it might be for perpetuity. So these are the things that are important to us. They're taking care of their land. What are they doing with it? They're not selling it to some developer that's going to build a bunch of McMansions on it anytime soon. They legally can't. They did that to themselves. They made sure that for generations, this will be agricultural land. So that's what we're all about.
Amazing story. Appreciate you distilling that. Another pun. In such a way that we can all absorb, and that's amazing. I really appreciate that. And I definitely want to get connected with the Joneses, and we'll get them on the show and we could talk about that, because as this show is heroic hospitality, it's what allows us to be hospitable? Well, the farmers, in a lot of ways.
And what they're doing down there is very heroic. I mean, to change the thinking,
the landscape, of literal,
a farmer
all the ways
that's been growing potatoes and barley for Coors for 4 generations, to get them to change their thinking, because they've had an unlimited supply of water, or they've had water coming from outside the valley. Now they have to find a way. These farmers
to make it work.
Yeah. The other thing is it's turning into a dust bowl down there, and the topsoil is being eroded away. And you go down there in the spring and the fall when the winds are picking up, and it's not pretty. It's really bad. And if people are planting rye on those fields, it's gonna solve that problem.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Rob.
I feel like we could talk for another 2 hours.
I know. I want to respect your time, and we'll have you on. I mean, this is the greatest thing about having your own shows. You come back on.
Yeah,
you know?
and maybe President Biden won't be driving through Denver.
I know. It took us forever to get here today.
Time.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. And we hold you of the highest regard here at Beacon and what you guys do. We look forward to continuing to support Family Jones and the brands. The next spot we do is going to be more loungy.
Cool.
So we'll be able to bring on more heady products.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I love what you're doing,
thank you.
and thanks for all the support. And thanks to everybody
it's
out there.
Super easy to have a
watching this.
relationship with you guys. So thank you.
Yeah.
And again,
Love to hear that.
if you own a restaurant, manage a restaurant, run a program, definitely use the Jones family.
Just take the time to learn more about
Yeah.
local. It doesn't necessarily have to be us, right?
Well,
Just
you've
learn-
offered your home to us to learn, and that's really all I'm trying to.
Oh,
It's
you're
like,
saying come to the Spirit House.
go to the
For
Spirit
sure.
House and like
For
educate
sure.
yourself, educate your staff,
But, yeah.
and wrap your arms around a relationship that means something to you in the beverage world, right? So,
Yeah. I would also like to say that Colorado bourbon is going to be different than Kentucky bourbon, for better or worse, right?
Yep.
It is a stylistic thing.
Yeah.
I could give all of my ingredients, my recipe, my process to a distiller in Kentucky, and there's no way they're going to make the same whiskey that we're making.
100%. Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons, but the aging process in particular. In 3 years, we lose 20% to angels, to evaporation.
Yep.
Okay, it takes 7 to 8 years for that to happen in Kentucky. It's going to make a very different product.
Sure.
And so understand that as a bar manager, owner, whatever, a bartender, somebody making cocktails, we're creating paint for you to draw your picture with. Our paint might say bourbon, but it's going to be a different shade than the stuff you're going to buy from makers.
This is more the Bob Ross paint.
Yeah. Happy trees.
Happy. Very happy. Awesome, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
Awesome. And thanks for listening. It was a great episode, brother. So thank you.
Thanks.
For carving out the time.
Yeah.